Most of us are doing it all wrong. I would go out on a limb and say that probably 95% of all managers, leaders, CEOs, COOs have no idea how to truly lead using something called situational leadership. So it's one of the actual modules in the Invest in Your Leaders course. I think it's the first module in the Invest in Your Leaders course. But I'll walk you through a crash course right now on what situational leadership is. And if this is all new to you, you definitely want your managers and leaders to check out the first module of investinyourleaders.com. So here's how situational leadership works. It's all based on Ken Blanchard and Dr. Paul Hersey's model from the 1960s, where they wrote the book, The 1 Minute Manager. And just if you have any questions about this, drop them in the chat and I'll try to answer them as we go. So situational leadership is the way that a leader or manager will adapt their style based on the project or situation at hand. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you had a general manager or a director of operations working for you, and that director of operations might have 5 different projects on their plate. Well, for each of the 5 projects, your leadership style should be completely different based on the skill level the person has and based on the commitment level that that person has on each of the individual projects. So let's say one of the projects is to recruit 10 new call center employees. Well, if they've never done it before, they have no skill at it. Or maybe if they've done a little bit of recruiting, they might have some skill. Or if they've done a ton of recruiting and interviewing and hiring, they might have a lot of skill at that. So you're going to rate them on their skill. You'll also rate them on their commitment. And the commitment is varying based on how much work they've got, based on if they're nervous, if they're brand new at the job, if they're overwhelmed, if they've got a lot of stuff on their plate. Maybe they don't like the actual project itself. That can change their commitment level. So maybe they're not into it, they're kind of into it, or they're really into it. Well, based on their skill and their commitment, your style has to adapt. So I created a model, and again, I walk everyone through it in the Invest in Your Leaders course, in that I think it's module number 1, situational leadership, that you assign a point value based on the person's commitment on each of the projects they're working on. And then you assign a point value based on their skill level on each of the projects they're working on. And the combination of those 2 points tells you the style of leadership you need to use on each of the individual projects. So in some cases, you need to be very direct, almost completely micromanaging them. Think about a 2-year-old pouring orange juice. You need to micromanage them. They've never done it. They're scared. It's a big juice jug. You need to tell them exactly how to do. You don't explain it all. You just show them step by step exactly what to do. That's what they need at that specific time. In fact, I work with CEOs all the time, and I micromanage them on certain areas that they've never done, or they're scared, or they're nervous on, but that's the exact style they need on that situation. The second style is really more of a problem-solving style. It's where you're actually going to show them the plan, explain why they're going to do it that way. You're going to kind of give them some of the methodology behind, or your thinking behind what they're going to do. That's kind of a second style of leadership. The third style is more they're going to come up with a plan. They're going to come up with the steps that they're going to be doing, maybe the playbook they're going to be following, but they're aware that you're there to help them. You're aware that you can mentor them. You're going to be cheering them on. They feel like you have that more open door, and that's the style they need at that point, is that more coaching style. And then the third style is when you're just going to give them the project and they're going to run with it. It's very kind of laissez-faire or delegation. So unless your managers and leaders have been trained in situational leadership, and again, take a look at the first module of investinyourleaders.com. I would have all of your managers and leaders go through that. You should go through that as well. I've done hundreds of hours of training in situational leadership over the last 30 years, and it's probably the number 1 skill that I work with all of my clients on. But there's a bit of a crash course for you. Hopefully that's helpful. Dive into the course, take a look at it. If you want to read the book, The 1 Minute Manager, that's a component of it. But I've actually taken situational leadership and made it a much simpler model for all managers and all leaders to use. And again, it's only one of the 12 modules in the Invest in Your Leaders course. I think it's $657 or $697 now per manager. So it's a rounding error to sign them up because they get 12 modules, and that's just one of them.